If you buy that rotting dump, don't expect a single penny from this family. And honestly, you were never worth one anyway. That sentence didn't land. It detonated right in the middle of my grandmother's funeral reception. The coffee was still warm. The flowers hadn't even wilted yet, and they were already circling like vultures calculating square footage resale value and how fast they could gut the past. For a quick check, I didn't say much. Just placed my hands on the edge of the dining table, Grandma Lorraine's old walnut one with the carved legs, and calmly said, "I want to buy the house. I'll pay for it myself. I'm not asking for charity." That's when my Aunt Linda nearly choked on her Chardonnay. She slapped the table and laughed so hard her fake diamond bracelet flew off. Who throws their savings into a termite nest? Oh, right. You. Then came my mother's voice, quieter, colder. Don't come crawling back when you've burned through everything. No one's bailing you out this time, Cassidy. No one defended me. Not a single cousin. Not even my sister. They didn't just reject the idea. They erased me. I was officially out. No part of the inheritance. No voice in the family group chat. My name got quietly snipped out of Will's decisions, brunch invitations. I'd crossed a line, and they made sure I knew it. But that day, I didn't flinch. Because that house wasn't just wood and plaster to me. It was the only place that had ever felt like I mattered. And if they thought I was weak for wanting to protect it, they hadn't seen what I could do when I was done being small. If you've ever been cut off just for caring too much, stick around. What happens next turned my entire family silent. They didn't whisper it. They posted it. 3 days after I signed the purchase papers, my cousin Heather shared a status on Facebook. Some people just can't let the past rot in peace. Good luck turning trauma into an Airbnb. The comments section. Pure poison. One said, "Is she really buying that dump? Does she live there? Alone?" Another added, "Sounds like a cry for help or attention." And the worst ADM from my male cousin Ryan. "I'm saving this moment. In 6 months, when you're broke and selling antiques on the sidewalk, I'll repost it. Just for the laughs." I didn't reply. I deleted Facebook, but I kept the message. Sometimes pain makes for excellent fuel. I sold my car, emptied my savings, canceled my health insurance. I signed every line on the contract with hands that shook, but I signed it anyway. When the realtor handed me the keys, she looked confused. "You sure you want this place? Most people demolish these." I smiled. "I'm not most people." That night I moved in. Alone. There was no welcome home. Just peeling paint, cracked floorboards, and the hollow silence of a house that hadn't heard laughter in years. The roof leaked. The back door wouldn't shut. The thermostat was dead. I ate cold, instant noodles from a paper bowl, sitting cross-legged on the kitchen floor. There was no furniture, no curtains, just dust, cold air, and a faded smell of eucalyptus Grandma's scent. When I opened the bottom drawer of the hutch, I found it a tablecloth, hand-stitched, yellowed with time, still stained with fish sauce from the last dinner she ever cooked for me. And that's when I cried. Not the soft kind. The kind that comes from somewhere deep, when your heart remembers things your brain tried to forget. That night, I didn't sleep. I laid awake staring at the ceiling until my body gave up. And then somewhere between dreams and something else, I saw her, Grandma Lorraine. Not glowing, not ethereal, just there. Sitting in her old rocking chair at the window, she looked me in the eye and whispered, "Write this down, honey. Don't forget 4, 12, 23, 28, 39. I woke up drenched in sweat, the room freezing, my heart pounding like I'd run 5 blocks. I scribbled the numbers on the inside of a cereal box, then stared at them for 2 hours, shaking. What did they mean? I didn't know. But I knew one thing for sure. She wasn't just visiting. She was trying to give me something. Ever gotten a sign so clear it made your bones freeze? Don't scroll what comes next. Might just be the moment everything changes. Let me paint the scene. No lights, no heat, no hot water. At night, the windows moaned when the wind passed through them, like the house itself remembered how many goodbyes it had swallowed. I slept on the hardwood floor in 3 layers of hoodies, clutching the same quilt my grandma once tucked me into as a child. The stitching was coming undone. Like me, every morning I'd boil water with a camping kettle I bought off Craigslist, brush my teeth with bottled water, and wipe condensation off the inside of the windows, just to let light in. It was survival, barely, and no. I didn't tell anyone, not because I was strong, because I knew they'd enjoy watching me fail. They were waiting, counting down the days until I gave up and begged to come back. But I wasn't going to break. Not until I found out what the numbers meant. Fear, 12, 23, 28, 39. I stared at them until I saw them in my sleep. On license plates, on receipts. They stuck to my mind like glue. I thought maybe it was a birthday, or a street address, or something else. But one day, standing in line at a gas station, I saw it. A Powerball billboard. Current jackpot $98,000. The numbers from my dreams stared back at me like a dare. My hands shook as I bought one ticket. Just one. I didn't even hope. I just didn't want to feel like I'd ignored something sacred. I folded the ticket in half, slid it into an envelope, and tucked it into the back of my grandmother's cookbook. I didn't check the results that night, or the next. But on the 3rd morning at 6:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was from the lottery app. The screen flashed with one sentence. Congratulations. Winning match. $942,000 awarded. I stood frozen in that crumbling kitchen. The faucet still leaked. The wallpaper still peeled. But in that second, I heard her again, my grandmother's voice in the back of my head. This house will give you everything if you love it enough. And I broke. Laughing, crying, knees on the floor. Because I knew now she had never left. Think she's about to spend it on revenge, not quite. What she does next will make them regret ever calling her worthless. The money didn't make me giddy. It made me furious, not because I was rich now, but because I finally had the power to do what they tried so hard to stop honor her. I didn't book a vacation. I didn't post a single update. I didn't buy a damn thing. I called a contractor, quietly. Then I hired an architect, someone who specialized in restoring historic homes. Keep the bones, I told her, but give it dignity again. The house groaned as we stripped it. Mold came off the walls like dead skin. We unearthed hardwood floors under linoleum so old it crumbled like ash. I spent my mornings covered in dust, my nights studying blueprints by lamplight, eating cereal from the same bowl Grandma had once served soup in. And I didn't tell a soul. Because this wasn't a show. It was a resurrection. I restored every original beam, sanded every hinge, polished every tarnished doorknob with a toothbrush. The brick fireplace that once held our Christmas stockings, I rebuilt it by hand. Every stone laid, while replaying the cruel words they'd thrown at me like knives. You're delusional. Nobody wants to sleep in a shrine to the dead. You're wasting your life. Good. Let them laugh. Because every time they did, I carved their disbelief into that wood and made it beautiful. In 6 months, the house stood proud again. Farmhouse, white. Big wrap-around porch. black steel lanterns, antique quilted linens, custom pine shelves, and her photograph framed in silver hung above the mantel like a crown. Beneath it I engraved a quote, just one line. This house was built from love and from the blood of being underestimated. They didn't know I had money. They didn't know I'd spent it all on this. All they knew was that the girl they once called a stray dog was building something people were whispering about. I never put up a sign. I didn't run Facebook ads. I didn't even tell my coworkers what I was doing. I just listed the house on Airbnb. No real name. No personal bio. Just 3 words in the description. The house remembers. The first guest came 2 weeks later, a woman in her late 60s traveling alone. She had crow's feet around her eyes and a kind of hush in her voice that said she'd been through things she never talked about. When she checked in, she stood in the living room for a full minute, holding her purse like she was standing in church. Then she whispered, "It smells like my grandmother's kitchen." That night, I baked a batch of gingerbread cookies using Grandma's old recipe. The smell filled the house, nutmeg cinnamon clove, and for the first time in years, the kitchen felt alive again. The woman knocked gently on the kitchen doorway. She had tears in her eyes. This place, it holds people, she said, like it remembers who we were before life got hard. She stayed 4 days. When she left, she gave me a note sealed in a linen envelope. It read, "I came here hoping for peace. I'm leaving with something softer than grief. Thank you for rebuilding this memory." That night, I cried for a different reason. Because for the first time since she died, I felt like Grandma wasn't just honored, she was present. And that's when it happened. A TikTok user, a travel blogger, posted a 15-second video of the front porch. Just the swing, the sunset, and the caption. This place made me feel like a kid again. It hit 3,000 views overnight. The next morning, I woke up to 92 booking requests. By the end of the week, the waiting list had passed 200, and people weren't just coming for a getaway. They were coming to feel something. Some left notes. Some left tears. Some left stories, pages tucked in the guest book about fathers they missed, mothers they never forgave, and parts of themselves they thought were long gone. They didn't know the owner, didn't know my name, and that was exactly how I wanted it. They called her a fool for loving a memory, but the world called it home. Next up, the family comes knocking without knowing who's behind the door. The name on the reservation meant nothing. It was generic, a placeholder, a first name that sounded like it came from a Hallmark movie, and a last name that sounded made up. But the number of guests, 4, the notes section, needs space for 2 luxury vehicles. Celebrating a family reunion. Please ensure quiet and privacy. That was the first red flag. The second came when I checked the guest profile brand. New, no reviews, no photo. The kind of thing people make when they're hiding something. Still, I accepted the booking. Out of curiosity, out of suspicion, out of something in my gut that wouldn't sit still. When the day came, I watched from the attic window as a black Lexus and a white Mercedes pulled up to the gravel driveway. They stepped out like they owned the place. My mother, my Aunt Linda, my cousin Heather, and Ryan, the one who sent the sidewalk antique message. They stood on the porch laughing, snapping selfies like tourists. No idea, no shame, no hint of recognition in their eyes. Until the front door opened, and I walked out, in a linen apron, holding a welcome basket with fresh bread and lavender soap. I smiled. "Welcome to the house remembers." Their faces froze. Heather dropped her phone. My aunt looked like she'd swallowed battery acid. And my mother, She just stared at my face like it was something she'd forgotten how to read. No one said anything for a long moment. Then Ryan forced a laugh. "Well, this is awkward." I stepped aside. "Come in. I believe you've paid. Wouldn't want you to waste it." They walked in slowly, cautiously, as if the walls might speak. They touched the curtains like they were museum fabric. They praised the smell, fresh pine and nutmeg. They complimented the layout, the craftsmanship, the emotional warmth. But not once did they say my name. That night, they gathered in the living room, my living room, and drank wine under the soft gold lights I'd chosen for comfort. I stood in the kitchen watching them through the archway, and all I could think was, you buried her with your greed, and now you're paying to sit in her love. They stayed 2 nights. No fights, no drama, no acknowledgement of what they'd done to me. They played nice, too nice. Heather took Instagram photos by the window. Ryan asked me where I bought the rugs. My aunt complimented the energy of the space, like I'd saged the house with forgiveness. And my mother, she walked through each room like she was remembering something, but never said a word. When they left, I thought that would be it. An awkward reunion. No closure, no healing, just silence. But I was wrong. The email came 4 days later. From Heather. Cass. After our visit, we talked as a family. We feel the house represents shared heritage, not individual ownership. We'd like to propose a revenue-sharing agreement for future bookings. Let us know how you'd like to divide things fairly. I stared at the screen and laughed out loud. I didn't respond. Not at first. But then the calls came. First from Aunt Linda, then from Ryan's lawyer friend, and finally from my mother. That call lasted 36 seconds. "You can't profit alone from a place that belongs to all of us." I said one sentence. "I paid for it. You buried it. And now you want to invoice the grave." She hung up. 2 weeks later they sued. The claim that I'd manipulated the sale and used family trauma for personal gain. That I'd knowingly acquired the property below market value and was now illegally enriching myself from family legacy. Their attorney ended the brief with this line: "We demand just compensation, or we proceed to trial." They wanted money. They wanted to control the narrative. They wanted to rewrite what they'd thrown away, and they thought I would cave, because that's what they always expected of me. But this time, I had something they didn't. Proof. And her voice. I didn't show up in tears. I showed up in navy blue, hair tied back, documents organized by color-coded tabs. They came in groups, smiling, whispering, dressed like they were going to brunch, not war. Heather wore white. Linda brought a Bible. My mother carried that same leather purse she used the day she told me I was nothing. The judge, an older woman with wire-frame glasses and zero patience, got straight to it. Their lawyer stood and recited every accusation like reading a shopping list. Manipulative acquisition of family estate. Emotional coercion of a dying elder. Profiteering under the guise of sentiment. And then they played the victim. Heather cried. Ryan said he was devastated by the division. Linda called me lost in grief, but still family. I sat there quiet, like a loaded gun on safety. Then the judge turned to me. "Miss Rhodes, do you have a response?" I opened a folder, pulled out a flash drive, and passed it to the bailiff. "Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to submit audio evidence and a handwritten will, both dated 3 weeks before my grandmother's passing." The room shifted. You could feel it. The judge clicked play, and then, there it was. Grandma Lorraine's voice, soft, raspy, still strong. "Cassidy, you've always been the only one who came without asking what I had left. This house is yours, because you loved it, even when no one else wanted it." The audio paused. A paper rustled. The judge read the handwritten will, dated, signed. witnessed by the neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, notarized with a thumbprint. The judge looked up. This supersedes all previous claims. Silence. Not dramatic, not loud, just hollow, like every lie they built their case on had been quietly set on fire. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just exhaled, because for once the truth didn't need me to fight for it. It stood on its own. The gavel came down with a clean, final thud. Case dismissed. The judge didn't even hesitate. This court finds no evidence of coercion, deception, or financial impropriety. The defendant legally purchased the property. All claims against her are denied with prejudice. With prejudice, meaning don't come back. Across the aisle, the family looked like mannequins mid-collapse. Heather's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Linda grabbed her Bible like it might save her from embarrassment. My mother turned red. Not from shame, from rage. She didn't even look at me as she stormed out. But the real storm that came after. The article hit the local paper 2 days later. Heir's homestay victory family loses suit after secret will emerges. By noon, it was trending online. By evening, it had 1.2 million views. A TikTok lawyer broke it down frame by frame. A real estate podcast called it the Revenge Blueprint. People chose sides. And I didn't need to guess which side they picked. One comment had 84,000 likes. Imagine suing your own blood over a house you didn't even care about. Then losing to a ghost and a girl with receipts. Another said, Cassidy is the villain origin story done right. That night I got a text from my cousin Madeline. I never thought you had it in you. I always thought you were soft. Turns out you're just silent and surgical. I didn't reply, but I stared at those words for a long time. Because she was right. I wasn't soft anymore. I had been broken, yes. But the thing about broken things, if you put them back together carefully enough, they become something sharper than they were before. I was sharp now, and they finally knew it. They stopped calling, stopped texting, stopped pretending. The lawsuits were gone. The family group chat dead. Even Christmas came and went like silence wrapped in tinsel. I kept the house open, but I kept my name off everything. To the world, I was just the manager of the homestay. To those who came through the doors, I was the silent woman who offered fresh tea and ironed linens. But to me, I was the last person left who knew the smell of my grandmother's pillowcase, the click of her old oven, the pattern in the floorboards she used to count like rosary beads when she couldn't sleep. One night a letter came, no return address, no name. Just handwriting so careful it looked like it hurt to write. Inside a piece of paper with 12 words on it. Thank you for keeping a world alive for people like me. That was it. No sob story. No tragedy. Just quiet, aching gratitude. I held the letter against my chest, like it might warm me more than the fireplace. And for once it did. Outside, the homestay was booked solid for 6 months. Influencers whispered about it like a secret spell. One guest left a 5-star review that simply said, I came here broken. This house helped me remember how to breathe. They didn't know whose house it was. They didn't know what blood had been shed to protect it. But that didn't matter, because they felt it. Sometimes I stand in the hallway late at night, barefoot on the same floorboards my grandmother once swept, and I say nothing. I don't pray. I don't speak. I just listen to the house breathing. And every now and then I swear. I hear it whisper back. The door didn't slam. It's sealed. What lives inside now is only for the worthy. I never gave interviews. Never sold my story. When a reporter knocked, I handed them a polite smile and a mug of cinnamon tea, then shut the door before they could ask their second question. The house didn't want noise. It wanted presence. Warm feet on cold floors, breath on frosted windows, laughter that came quietly and stayed like the scent of vanilla in old linen. So I let it be. But word kept spreading. One day a woman checked in alone. Mid-40s, face tight with old worry. She didn't ask for anything special. Didn't take photos. Just sat by the fireplace like she'd finally found a room where she didn't have to explain herself. That night, I found her crying on the porch swing. She looked at me and whispered, "This house, it holds grief like it knows what to do with it." I didn't reply, but I brought her an extra blanket and left her to the stars. The next week, a letter came. The envelope was pale blue, the handwriting elegant. Inside, "Thank you for building something that doesn't ask us to be okay. Thank you for not needing a backstory before handing us keys." There was no signature, just a pressed lilac. I kept it in the drawer under my grandmother's old mirror. It's where I keep all of them now, the letters. Some are pages long. Some are one sentence. All of them say the same thing. You built something holy out of what they left behind. Sometimes I think maybe I didn't build anything at all. Maybe I just listened to the house, to the quiet, to what the world doesn't give people anymore. A place to be nothing for a while, and still be enough. It was spring when they returned. I saw them first from the window upstairs, the family. Dressed well, shoes clean, voices low like they didn't want the house to overhear them. My mother stood at the back, holding her purse like it might explain something. They hadn't booked. They hadn't written. They just showed up, with expectations. My cousin knocked first, the same one who once posted memes about me losing my mind. He smiled like we were neighbors, not people who once stood on opposite sides of a courtroom. "We were hoping you might give us a tour," he said. Family, after all. I looked down at the porch, polished hand sanded by me over 2 winters. Then I looked him in the eye. This house doesn't recognize that word anymore. They didn't argue, not loudly. But my mother stepped forward. Her voice didn't tremble this time. It was steady, like the blade she always kept behind her words. "You proved your point. You did something. But this was never just yours. Your grandmother was part of all of us." I could have said 100 things. I could have reminded her of the day she said I wasn't worth saving. I could have brought up the court, the lies, the fact that I rebuilt something sacred with the hands they said were foolish. But I didn't. Instead, I reached into the front drawer and handed her a photocopy of the will. Highlighted, signed, stamped, and then I shut the door. Not slammed, just closed. Final. Gentle. Like a lullaby for a story that had cried enough. Inside, I sat down beneath my grandmother's portrait, lit a candle, poured some tea. Outside, they lingered for a while, then faded like bad dreams do, slow, awkward, full of unspoken regret. I flipped open her old notebook, one I hadn't touched in months. The last page held a message in her handwriting, faint but there. "Those who love you will never ask to be let in." I smiled. Then I added one line beneath hers in my own script. "And those who laughed now wait behind the gate." They tried to erase her. Now they stand in line hoping to be remembered. You just heard the full story. Subscribe to the Family Lies for more powerful, real-feeling stories about betrayal, healing, and unexpected revenge.